What's up, you guys? So this is part 2 of the Powerless trilogy. What's up, you guys? So this is part 2 of the Powerless review, except I am not reviewing Powerless, I am reviewing Powerful by Lauren Roberts, and it is the little novella for Powerless, and this is actually the story of Adina and Makoto, who is the guy that she ends up falling in love with. And obviously there's spoilers in here, so if you don't want spoilers, I guess don't watch. But if you have read the book, then this is my review. Okay, so we start this book off where Peyton leaves for the trials, and that is where Mac sees Adina for the first time, because he is seeing the person that he loves, which is Hera, leave for the trials, and then Adina is seeing Peyton leave. And when he sees her, he gets the idea to ask Adina to sew him an Imperial Guard uniform. I wanted to say costume, but that wasn't the right word. So an Imperial Guard uniform together for him, so that he can sneak into the castle and he can save Hera and take her away from the trials, because he says, like, there's no way that she'll be able to survive. You know, I need to get her out of there, whatever. At first, Adina doesn't want to do it, but then she's like, you know what? No, like, I'll do it. So she goes and she starts working with him, and she starts creating, you know, an outfit for him and everything. And it kind of takes off like a little bit fast, like where he's already like enjoying everything about being around her. She's kind of enjoying like everything about being around him, but he's very like grumpy, and she's very much like the sunshine and stuff. And so so like he tries to act like he's so annoyed with her, like, what, do you have a word count that you have to hit for every day or whatever, you know, like he says little stuff like that. And it's cute, it's adorable, but yeah, so it's a lot of that. And then they're just like, they're together for so much. It's kind of like close proximity, because now she's like staying in his house with him, and she was like even sleeping there overnight, blah blah. And he, like, little by little just becomes like super protective of her. Like, there's even a point where she was gonna walk home, but then like some men were like making some disgusting comments about her. They were chasing her and everything, and so she runs back to him, and he's like, yes, like, you know, stay here with me. And then he goes and he finds them, and he like beats him up for her, you know. So it was great. But yeah, so just like, oh my gosh, you guys, like little stuff that he would say and the way that they would talk about each other, like, it was just so cute. And honestly, okay, I'm finding that I love the guy's point of view. Like, I love the girl's point of view, like, it's cute and girly and whatever, but like when they put like a guy's point of view in a book, I eat that up. I don't know what it is. I think because like you don't see that a lot. So like usually whenever you're just reading books, like you kind of like don't get a lot of context of like what the guy is thinking. Like, you know what the girl's thinking, you know why she's being annoying and why she's doing this and whatever, but you don't know why the guy is doing certain things that he's doing. So I love when they put a guy's point of view in a book, because I just think it just does so much better. It just does something for me. Like, I just love it. And so you get to see a lot of like what he's feeling and how he's starting to feel towards her, and how he just enjoys his time with her so much. And he has like the saddest backstory ever. And he actually is I forget what they call it, but he has the same power as Kai, which is why he's in the slums. He's hiding, because if the king was to ever find out that he is an elite, the way that he's an elite, because the king has made everybody believe that Kai is the only person that has that power, and that he's like the most powerful. So if there was somebody else that could challenge that, it would obviously be a threat to the king and to the enforcer. So that's why he hides in the slums and everything. And Hera was actually his cousin, which you don't find out for a majority of the book. You think that Hera is his girlfriend that he just loves and has to go and save her or whatever. And so, like, honestly, in like a lot of the book, I was kind of like, you forgot about Hera pretty fast, you know? Like, did you really love her? You know, but then when you find out that she's his cousin, it's like, oh, okay, now that makes sense. But like, there's a point where they finally are like getting ready. They're gonna go sneak into the castle, get her, whatever. And then Adina gets called to be the seamstress for Paden in the trials. And that's when you find out what kind of power that he has, and that he needs Adina to be there because she is a phaser. So he was gonna use her power to get into the castle and to save Hera and then get her back out, but he needed to be able to pull Adina's power, basically, to be able to do that. And so you find out that that's why he put like that's why he ended up like trying to get Adina to help him or whatever. Not only did he need the uniform, but he also he needed her power. And then that's when you find out what kind of power he has, why he's been hiding out, blah blah. And so then she's like, you lied to me, you didn't even tell me, blah blah, you know, like, I can't trust you, all this stuff. And so then because she also finds out that when he got Hera, that he was gonna like leave, he was gonna take off, he wasn't gonna be in Elia anymore, he was gonna leave. And she was like, you were gonna leave me, you know, and I can't believe you, and blah blah. And he was like, well, Hera's all I have. And then she's like, no, you had me, and all this stuff. And so they had this whole thing, and she leaves, and then he actually goes to the castle. He's able to get in, and then he feels Adina's power, and so he goes into the room where she's at, and he's like, you know, Adina, I'm sorry, like, I didn't know what to tell you. And he's like, but I came to see you first, like, doesn't that mean anything? And she's like, no, like, you can get killed, and I want you to just go back home so that I can go and be with you, and all that stuff. And so he ends up going back home, and he ends up just waiting for her. And so at every time they had a ball, which was like 3 times, they had 3 of them, every time they would have one, she would go back to the slums, and she would go to loot. So she would go and be with him, and they would, like, you know, sit and talk together all night and get to know each other. And she like gave him like a vest, she gave him a little thing to like hold his weapons and stuff that she like made for him, and he just loved it. And they had this whole thing where like he never smiled because his father told him that he didn't deserve to smile. Like, his father was a horrible person to him, so he never smiled, he never like laughed or anything. And she was the one and only person that finally got him to smile and like truly like laugh and everything. And I just thought that was so cute. God, it was so cute. I love that he calls her honey because of honey buns, and she's like, why do you call me that? And then he's like, well, you are what you eat, you know. And I just thought that their first kiss was so cute, and I thought that their whole interaction was just adorable. Okay, so the ending of the book. Okay, I was wondering how it was gonna happen, because so basically, like, so before she's about to leave, when the 3rd ball was happening, the king requests to see her, but apparently like that's when they broke her fingers and they stuck her in the dungeon to be killed. But you don't know why she's in the dungeon. But Mac is at Adina's fort, and he's waiting for her, and he's like, you know what, she probably just got busy, you know, it's okay, whatever. I kind of liked that they did that instead of like, oh, she didn't come to see me and I knew I shouldn't have trusted her, blah, blah, blah. Like I was glad that they didn't go that route, because that just would have been really stupid. But so he was like, oh, she probably just got busy. Like, she'll profusely apologize, you know, tomorrow when she comes, blah, blah. So then he sees a flyer that anybody and everybody can go to the trial games. And he, like, was like, oh my gosh, that's so stupid. Like, I don't want to go. But then he's like, wait, Adina's going to be there. So actually, I will go. And then he decides to go to the games. And he's like, he goes into the arena, and he's like looking around, and he's like trying to feel her power. And he's like, she's nowhere around here, but I can feel the power, but maybe that's somebody else's power. And then he's like, it keeps pointing me towards the middle of the arena. And he's like, that can't be right. Like, you know, what is the reason? But then he finally sees her. He sees that she is in the middle, and whenever he first came in, he hears the first person to get to the middle of the arena, you have to also kill the prisoner that's in there. And when he finally sees her, he realizes that Adina is the one in the middle, and that she is going to be getting killed. And he cannot even take it. Like, he is falling apart. And he even like gets into it with an Imperial, and the Imperial's like, if you don't watch it, you know, I'm gonna send you down there with her. And he was like, okay, bet, you know, like, he didn't say that, but like, you know, basically like that's what he said. And then he like was trying to get the Imperial to take him down there, and then he's like, you know what, the Imperial was like, you know what, I think you have a better seat up here. It's gonna torture you worse to watch what happens to her. And so then he just leaves him there. And then whenever he sees that Adina dies, oh my gosh, you guys, like, even now, like, I want to cry so bad, because it was just so like heartbreaking to hear the way that he says that he felt like he had to like hold on to something, because he was like falling apart, and he was like screaming, and he was just so upset, and he didn't know what to do with himself. And he's like, and people were just looking at me like they didn't know what was wrong with me, whatever, you know. But he was just standing there, and he was like falling apart, and it was just so heartbreaking. Oh my gosh. And then she, in one of the things that she gave him, she wrote that they were like gonna be together in the sky or whatever. Honestly, I thought that meant that, I thought that was like a thing where like maybe he was gonna like join her in the sky, but he didn't. They made it to where he was outside, and he was crying, and he was upset and everything, and where he looked up, and when he saw the sun, he knew that was her. And then he said, like, she's gonna be with me forever, she's gonna be shining down on me. And I thought that was the sweetest thing ever. But it was just so like like heartbreaking, so heartbreaking. And like, the way that they made Adina sound in this book was just so amazing. She sounded like a beautiful person, and she just was so loving and such a sunshine and everything. And then the way that like she absolutely turned his life around. And he told her, whenever he decided to leave Hera there, he told her, please come and see me, I can't stand to lose both of you. And so that's when she would go and see him, not knowing that he would lose both of them, because Hera dies in the first trials, and in the first week of the trials, and then Adina dies in the last week of the trial. And guys, like, heartbreaking. It really, like, I really wanted to cry. And you know what is insane about all of this, right? Is, okay, it's kind of the same thing as when I read If He Had Been With Me. If He Had Been With Me evoked so much emotion out of me that I almost couldn't stand myself after I read it, because I was just so like worked up about everything. And then I was like, okay, I'm gonna read, if only I had told her. And I had heard that book like wasn't all that good, which anybody who said that, y'all are tripping. But it's so good. But I really was like on the fence as well whenever I read like whose point of view was gonna be. I was like, oh, it's gonna be Jack's point of view. Like, we didn't even hardly hear about him in the first book. Like, who cares? Whatever. Honestly, you guys, like Jack's point of view was like probably one of my favorites. And like, even, you know, at some points, like over If He Had Been With Me, like I was like, oh my gosh, like Jack's point of view just like hit so hard. But I was hesitant about it because he wasn't a main character. That's how I felt going into Powerless. That's how I felt going into Powerful. Was like, okay, it's about Adina and some random guy named Mac. Like, I didn't think I was gonna enjoy it. I was like, like, I want to hear about Peyton and Kai. Like, that's kind of how I was being or whatever, which was dumb because I think I need to learn that I'm gonna enjoy the side characters' plots. Like, this evoked so much emotion out of me. Like, I did not even come close to crying in Powerless. Like, I thought it was great. I was kicking my feet, giggling at all the cute little parts, and I was like mouth on the floor at the end. But I was not gonna cry, except when Adina died. Like, I almost was like almost just as upset, but I got way more upset with this book. But I was like, no, like they did not put her in there and then killed her. Like, what? It was so intense. I was so upset, but like I was not gonna cry. But then I read this book, and the fact that like you get to know Adina more, and you get to like see what she was going through the whole time of the trial. She had this entire relationship the entire time, and she never got to tell Peyton about it because she didn't want to take Peyton's mind off of the trials or whatever. And then you get to see that the king meets Adina at one point. She accidentally bumps into him in the hallway, and he's like, who are you? And she's like, oh, I'm Adina, I'm Peyton seamstress, whatever. And he was like, oh, okay. And then he's like, and how do you know her? And she's, oh, we've been best friends all these years, we were together in the slums, blah blah blah. Which I'm guessing was his reasoning. He didn't really have a reason. Well, that was not his actual reason. His real reason was because he wanted to destroy Peyton. But that was his reasoning for putting her into prison. That's the way that she committed treason, was knowing that Peyton was an ordinary, because the king knew, spoiler, the king knew the entire time that she was an ordinary. And he knew that she was an ordinary. And then when he found out that Adina had been her friend for years, he obviously knew that she was an ordinary, and was like praising the fact that she was doing so good in the trials and everything. And so then the king was like, Adina was like trying to excuse herself, like, okay, like, it's been a pleasure to meet you, I'll see you again. And then the king was like, I'm sure it wasn't a pleasure to meet me or whatever. And he's like, but I will be seeing you again. And I knew that was the beginning of the end. I knew it. Yeah, this book was heart-wrenching. Like, heart-wrenching. Like, Mac finally opens up. He's finally happy. Like, in the midst of losing his cousin, in the midst of, like, going through grief, he's finally happy because of Adina. And then he literally watches her die. And my heart dropped. dropped. And the way that he was describing the anguish and the pain that he felt watching her die, I was like, oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. Like, it was hurting my heart. It felt like I was there, you know. It was just so sad. And like, it was just so intense. Like, I don't know. It was just crazy. It was crazy. And like, just the fact that like you get to see so much more about the characters, and like they were opening up to each other a lot. They were like, you know, you just get to know them, you know, whereas we're like, you're sad and Powerless that Adina is the one that dies, but you're not like so invested in her that like it hurts. You're not hurting because Adina dies. You're hurting because Paedon is hurting. That's why you're hurting in Powerless when Adina dies. You're hurting because Paedon is hurting and you love Paedon. But when you read Powerful, you're hurting when Adina dies because you love Adina. And I just think that's, I don't know, I just loved it. I loved that dynamic. I loved getting to know Adina more. But then it came to the point where, like, the same thing. And If He Had Been With Me, I was like, oh crap, but he's about to die. But he's about to die. No. You know, it was the same thing. It was like, oh, this is so cute. I love them. They're so cuddly and adorable. And oh, he finally opened up to somebody. She's about to die. Oh my gosh, she's about to die. I forgot about that part. And then whenever she dies, guys, oh, my heart, you guys, my heart, just so sad. So sad. But honestly, these books are like 10 out of 10. Like 5 stars doesn't even do these books justice. Like 10 out of 10, both of them. Even solely for just the quotes alone, the way that they describe things about each other, like whenever they're in love, like Kai and Paedon, Mac and Adina, the way that they describe how much they love each other and like how they feel about each other, like just the quotes, like they're just so good. You guys are so good, and I just love them. And yeah, I just, oh my gosh, so good. But I'm still sad. I'm still processing it. I'm still processing everything that I read. But absolutely, like, would 100% recommend these books. They were so good. Definitely one of my top favorite books that I've read so far in the month of August. July kind of was when I was reading Powerless, and then when I read Powerful, I read it this month. But yeah, absolutely enjoyed it. It was so good. Yeah, you guys, I hope you enjoyed this commentary. I hope you enjoyed this review. And if you've read this book, let me know. And I will see you guys next time. Bye.